on this episode of the Modern Matriarch podcast. When you first found out you're pregnant and the excitement, and you shared it with me, but then it came to the point of sharing with others and sharing it with women that are not in that mindset of having a family themselves, or maybe it's like way tucked away in the subconscious, how they reacted to you and how that felt. I remember you experiencing that. I would love for you to share with our listeners here, because I think it's a good thing to be prepared for.
Yeah.
To know that not everybody is going to be excited for you.
Whenever somebody hears that somebody is pregnant, you immediately, at least I think for most of the women that I interacted with, you cannot help but assess your own personal values around it and choices.
So instinctual.
And we are constantly juggling with that internal conflict of when and do I want to and why, and I think
when you see it right in front of you, it's like, wow, you can't just go anymore. It's like this thing that maybe I don't even want, and then your nature comes back, your human being, your woman, and goes, this is what I also want, and you are stopping me from doing that. And this woman is pregnant, and look at you, you could be pregnant too right now.
Exactly.
I'm Victoria, and you are listening to the Modern Matriarch podcast, a show about living unapologetically as a woman. Here we discuss the quiet things out loud without fear or political correctness. You deserve to feel alive deep in your soul through living authentically and finding deep fulfillment as a woman. You are listening to the first season of the Modern Matriarch podcast with our special return guest, Makenzie Chbeeb. Makenzie is an incredible woman, a professional dancer and choreographer, a young entrepreneur, incredible wife, and soon-to-be mama, and I'm so excited to have her back on the show for another episode with you. This episode is inspired by my very recent pregnancy and Makenzie's current pregnancy, both of us first-time mamas, going through pregnancy for the first time, and the surprised loneliness that came along the way, and how we were both navigating this experience. I can't wait to share with you all the juicy pieces we're going to talk about, so let's dive right in. So today on the show is inspired by our pregnancy journeys, mine that ended almost 5 months ago, when my little baby was born, my little baby girl. And Makenzie is deep into her pregnancy. So we had so much that we went through together and talked about, and things we didn't even think about before becoming pregnant that we want to unravel here and reflect together, and also share with you listeners what this is like, what it's like to be pregnant in today's modern world where pregnancy is not considered the norm anymore, where making families is considered either old-fashioned or it's also thought about as something that's going to take up too much of your life. And as we talk about on the Modern Matriarch, so many of us are so focused on the self, and we don't realize that what makes the self amazing is when we can actually, as women, focus on nurturing others. So this is kind of in a nutshell how we're going to dive deep into this. And Makenzie, let's begin first with the biggest question that I have that we haven't gotten to talk about yet is you live in Los Angeles and also in a culture that's so focused on, having fun yourself and the arts, and in a space where family is more of a rarity. What went through your mind, and how did you and Philip, your amazing husband, how did you guys bring about the subject of family when you first met, which was, I know, some years ago? Was family something that you guys talked about as a plan, or did it come later into the picture in your relationship?
Such a good question. So I met Philip 7 years ago. We were both freelance artists.
living in Los Angeles, doing the crazy dating game. I met Philip when I was 22 and he was 28. So he had come out of some serious relationships, and he always knew that he wanted a family. I think individually, we both had the assumption that we would have families. So on a separate path, like separately, that was assumed that we were going to do that. And so when we met each other...
Someday.
Someday. So when we met each other, even though I was really young, it was very naturally instilled in me that I was looking for a forever mate, even though I was extremely naive and immature, and I was partying and living, you know, my early 20-year-old life in Los Angeles. There was still a deep part of me that was so dedicated to prioritizing a long-term committed relationship. And I think it really started there, and that was for him as well. And I think that's why we immediately connected on such a deep level, because those foundational values just synced up in a really natural way. It wasn't, there wasn't any hesitation or resistance with that. I didn't have to talk him into wanting a family or wanting to be a dad one day. It was just something that...
So you guys did discuss it?
Yeah, really early on. And our relationship moved really fast. So the moment we met, it was weird. We were in it. And we've talked about it a lot, and we've really have tried to dissect it because we want to understand love. It's such a complex thing, and I think because our industry, it's already so hard to meet people, and then on top of that, in Los Angeles, it's so hard to meet like dedicated people that want to have these long-term, deep, committed relationships. And you want, like you were saying, it's a little contradicting with the culture here in Los Angeles and our industry to like want a family and want to be married. So when we met each other, and that was kind of just aligning in that way, and then at the same time we were still overlapping as artists and had the same values when it came to like certain freedoms and ways of expressing ourselves. It was just this really weird, perfect match of things. Not saying that the relationship, you know, building the relationship was perfect or easy. We've dedicated so much, really all of our life and attention the last 7 years into building this cohesive, beautiful relationship with each other. But really those foundational things from the beginning were actually pretty set in stone. And there were some natural things that we just aligned on that allowed us to feel the comfort of being like, oh, I think I can be here with this person for a bit. Like, I want to date this person. I want to be in this person's life for a long time. And it was that feeling that I think gave me a sense of, oh, I'm starting to be able to envision a future. And I think before, again, like in my 20s, I had this idea of like what my type was and the kind of person that I wanted to end up with. And Philip was none of that, but he was everything else that I spiritually manifested in a way that I was like, oh, that's exactly...
Can you dive it? Can you open that up a little bit?
Yeah.
If you don't mind?
Yeah. Like even from like a physical...
Because I think that's what sets you apart.
Yeah. I think like even from a physical standpoint, I thought I knew what I wanted. Like I thought I knew that I wanted this type of looking person. Maybe not a dancer. Like I didn't want to date a dancer. I wanted to date maybe, you know, I was like, I liked the idea of musicians, still artistic, but not completely.
Now you're making a little baby boy dancer.
I know. He's doomed. He is doomed. He has no way out of it.
Between the two of you, both dancers.
Yeah. No,
that's amazing.
I did not imagine being with a dancer at all. He's also so smart, and he's such an intelligent man, and he loves science and he loves philosophy, and I never imagined myself being with somebody that
this would be your type, right? Yeah.
Yes, and it is like he taught me what I loved about that. It's almost as if like we both didn't even know what we really wanted, and I wasn't actually really his normal type of girl and woman either. So it was really cool.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was really cool. It felt like really our spirits were meeting before the physical And so much of the spiritual aligned that our humans eventually caught up, and we were like, oh, this is really cool. This is something rare that we haven't found before in this city that's worth like investigating and digging deeper
investing
into.
in and keeping. That's really, really cool. So that's really interesting, because for me the journey was a little bit different. I mean, I think I told you my story. I knew he was going to be the father of my babies the moment I met JC, right?
Yeah.
I locked eyes, and it was so weird because I wasn't even thinking about kids. It was just really primal, just like who came from the back of my mind, just right to the forefront. Like, oh my God, he is the man, you know? Yeah. But for me, it was a little different, because that's when after that, we didn't even talk about kids. We put it completely on the back burner, and it was more of like, later on, we have so much time to address this. And it's funny how you guys actually quickly discuss children. And I'm trying to understand a little bit of our differences, because I think these are the things that lead to being a lonely pregnant mama, because of what's going on in our culture today that gets us to that state once we're actually pregnant. So I'm trying to understand a little bit deeper. Was your upbringing a lot more focused on family, and did your parents celebrate the children and wanting to have grandkids? Was Philip the same way? Because these things come from somewhere. It's not just, it happens. You're like, I want babies. You don't even see children in Los Angeles. You walk the street, you see 100 dogs and one kid. you know?
The ratio
and I'm
is
noticing it
definitely
more
off.
and more now that we have a baby. It's lopsided. But I'm trying to understand how you guys at such an early age, especially you and Philip even, because a lot of men didn't even think about children because they also want to focus on their lives like that, right? How did you guys just do this? Where did this come from?
I definitely attribute it to my upbringing and my family and his as well. So my parents, because their relationship still to this day is one of the most beautiful collaborative relationships I've ever witnessed.
I love them. I haven't even met them, and I love them.
The fucking best. It's so funny because when Philip, that first month that we started dating, he did not believe that they were as happy as they were. And I was like, Philip, it's not a front. They're not. He's like super skeptical.
It's real.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this is real. And then like after like our first year, he's like, oh shit, like they're in it. Like they are. It's so real. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the family. And like this is how it is. We're all just like, seriously guys, you're still just obsessed with each other. But it's
still in love. That's awesome.
It's the best. And I grew up, they worked together, so they were both artists. They're both singers. And they were extremely collaborative. They, toured the U.S. with their little jazz bands. And as kids, we grew up just on the road with them, listening to them singing together. So there was this beautiful perspective of mom and dad doing what they love together, and marriage representing actual freedom and a deepening of connection, not a lack of freedom, not slavery or like the stereotype that we all hear that's like, oh, the old ball and chain. It's like, that was not ever how I looked at marriage. Marriage, it was not just...
I can't even see your dad be like that.
No, it was a representation of like, in order to access the best versions of themselves, they had to be together. And that was my idea of relationships growing up. It was like, oh, I am better. I'm going to become the best version of myself next to somebody. I can't do that alone. And that was instilled in me in a way, again, that wasn't it not infringing upon my own freedom or independence.
It's just by example.
Just by example. And I realized that I never... And my siblings are different, which is really a funny thing because I know that like we could talk about this all day, but like how certain parenting, it doesn't even, like certain parenting, depending on your child, like each child can have a completely different outlook on relationships in life and outcome. Yeah. And that's exactly how my siblings are. Like all three of us are so different. So this has affected, my parents' relationship impacted them in very different ways than it did me. But with me, I never even questioned if I was going to be a mom or not. I was like, it was just, when was I going to be a mom? It wasn't, there was no point, even in my adulthood, it wasn't probably until pregnancy, like I was already pregnant, that I was like, oh God, should I be a mom? Should this be happening? But up until then, there was never a question. That was always going to be a part of it. And again, not in a way that's like sad or negative. Or it was like, oh, and
you just saw a beautiful example, right?
No, and it's like the next stage of life. It's like, that's how I level up. That's the next way to unlock the next version of myself that when I'm ready for, I can't wait to meet and get into. And for Philip, he also grew up, you know, in a family. I mean, he grew up in Houston, so he didn't grow up in California. There are a lot of different values in the South that are incredible. The hospitality, obviously, the family values. His parents, his parents also.
There's a reason.
There's a reason. His parents immigrated from Lebanon and Croatia. So coming from a family of
deep family values there.
Yes, the family values instilled between both cultures all prioritize marriage and family in a way that's like that's everything, is your network and your community.
It's the most important thing to do.
Yes, it's literally, what else are we here for? And so he grew up with that also instilled in him, in a way where it was like, okay, of course I'm going to live my own life and I'm going to find my purpose and do that, but I want to share that with somebody. And in order to, again, do that to the best of my ability, I want to find a partner that can help me access that version of myself that wants to do those things. And so I think, again, separately, we had those values instilled in us in our upbringing. So when we met, it made those conversations specifically about family really easy. And because, you know, we're 6 years apart, he brought it up because, you know, I was 22, I was really young, he was 28, but he wanted to make sure that he was also investing in a relationship that had longevity. And we were
potential
for that, because he wanted that, and he wanted to know that early on. And I really appreciated his honesty, because that's not easy to be like, hey, do you want to have kids, without saying it in a way that is putting pressure on me, but that knows, like, am I safe to invest my time here, because this is really what
that's what I want.
This is what I want. Yeah. And what, and I want to actually bring this up too, because there was a lot of men that I dated early on that also wanted the same thing. But what was interesting about Philip is that when he asked me it, or when we even talked about family, it felt like he wanted a family with me, not the idea of just a family. And I think that...
Of just having a family.
Yes, and I think that's what
like
made me...
You're not just a vessel to achieve his goals.
Yes, and it's not like, oh, we just want to have a family to have a family. It was like, oh, wait, okay, yes, we do have these values of wanting a family, like separate from each other, but now that we're together, ooh, having a family with you sounds really cool. And like the idea of that,
let's have love babies.
Yeah It felt different in that way. And I think that's what differentiated that specific conversation from other conversations that we had.
That makes me cry, damn it.
That was definitely...
That's beautiful.
No, it was and it was exciting. And I feel so grateful for that feeling, because I think being able to make love and make babies and expand your family from a place of finding an individual that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel protected, and that makes you want to live longer and live better. Like being able to procreate and make a little being out of that. I'm like, what greater gift?
The two of you.
What greater gift to give yourself, to give each other, and to give that child and your family. And so I just feel very blessed that was our,
and
that's
legacy.
Our situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, what a story. I'm so glad we're talking about this today, because I never really I thought about it in passing, because when I was pregnant and I found out you're pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually doing this. This is crazy, and I had a million questions where all this came from. So it's so nice to hear that you guys have that background, and I love that it comes from your family and the values you were both raised with. And your story and Philip's story is amazing, and you guys are such a beautiful, just like intensely loving couple. I love your relationship. It just makes me giddy every time I watch you guys together. And there's a reason why everyone that's watching you two are just infatuated by seeing your love and connection that you have. And I feel it's a lot of it could be based on that really soulful and deeply human connection. It's not just a date that you have and you sleep around, or you have something temporary, see how long it can last, or that kind of thing. It's more of a deep, soulful commitment, the topic we talked about in our last episode together.
Yeah,
I think brings that magnetic energy that's inseparable, and be able to build what you guys have built, and entering this new phase in life. And I think that is so beautiful, so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that part of your life I didn't know about yet. That's really, really nice.
Of course.
What I am really curious about, Makenzie, I have a million questions for you, is, you were raised that way. Philip is raised that way. You land in Hollywood where you don't see children, right? This is your career, you're dancing. Did you feel like you both, or maybe you had a period where you kind of put that whole thing to the back burner, the subject of having a family, and kind of like not even thinking about it? Or was it kind of always in the flow of your relationship? Okay, when are we doing this? Like, what's the plan? What do we need to do? Or was it something that you guys both put to the back burner because of how the culture is where you live every day? We'll get right back to the show. But first, this is for you, mama. If you are planning a home birth and you want to create a special and meaningful ceremony with your newborn, this is for you. Instead of just cutting the cord, many mindful parents are choosing an old and sacred practice to sever gently the connection between mama and baby. This old practice uses simple and natural ingredients to sever the connection through umbilical cord burning. This amazing, gentle, and slow experience honors the sacred bond and deep connection between mama and baby. The umbilical cord burning kit by Sacred Nest has everything you need for the ceremony. It's a gorgeous, natural wood, adorned umbilical cord burning box, custom designed just for this experience. It has pure, natural, and real beeswax candles, special and gentle organic umbilical cord powder for your newborn after the ceremony, and also organic tea to savor this amazing experience. Many parents find that this gentle approach and ancient practice helps their baby heal quicker and the umbilical cord, the stump of it, to fall off faster. Sacred Nest's gorgeous umbilical cord burning kit has everything for the ceremony, and as a listener of this show, you'll get a special discount on your kit. Just follow the link in the show notes of this episode, grab your kit and your discount, and start planning this beautiful and meaningful experience with your newborn. And now, back to the show.
I think we established from the beginning this understanding of wanting the potential to have a family and knowing that that's where we would end up. And then I think when we actually started building our relationship, the actual difficulties and challenges of unlearning behaviors as an individual, learning how to love, learning how to make yourself available for somebody else, we realized we have a lot to learn before we bring a baby into this world. And I think we focused really heavily the next 6 years into self-development and into developing our relationship and our foundation and creating a insulated, like concretized foundation of communication and honesty that was imperative before moving into the next steps of anything with each other.
Got it.
And so that became, like I said, in the beginning, it was like this beautiful, magical wave of like potential. And I saw there were moments where I saw like my whole life with him. Like I saw the contents of our life together.
Wow.
And the kind of that feeling that you had with JC, I got that like a couple months after we started dating, where I started having these crazy premonitions of seeing the contents of our entire life together, and that actually really overwhelmed me and was a little intimidating because I was so young. That I realizing and understanding that like, oh, you're done looking, it's over, you're done, and feeling that like in my body, like it's done, you don't have to look anymore, and even mourning the search that we're so accustomed to as like these young immature adults, and enjoying the drama of like that game being over, and being comfortable with settling into somebody and finding that there's a different definition of freedom that I didn't know that lived within deeply committing to one person.
That commitment.
Yes. And I think like I said, the next 6 years was us realizing, okay, the more that we actually surrender to each other and dig deeper into each other, the more freedom and opportunity that we have in our life, not the opposite. Yeah. And again, that's something that was reflected in my parents' relationship that I saw, but Philip and I were doing it we decided to do that in a very different way through really challenging work. Like the next couple of years was us diving into the industry together, fusing our separate brands, and creating this empire of Makenzie and Philip.
Coming together.
Yeah, and who are we as artists and choreographers and directors? So being in the industry, we absolutely dedicated ourselves to work for the next couple of years. But like I said, we almost used that as a way to build up. We used it as a boot camp to become the people we needed to be to have children, if that makes sense. So I
was
feel,
that conscious or subconscious?
I think it's a really good question. I think maybe a bit of both. I think sometimes
both. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we knew like we're doing this to become better versions of ourselves, because this is hard shit that we're in the middle of that isn't easy.
Yeah.
And so we're doing this for this reason. And then I think other times, it's completely unconscious, and there's probably certain things that we were doing that I have no idea how they affected the decision that we made last year to start trying for a kid. So I'm sure it's a little bit of both. But to kind of like wrap up what you were asking, it started with knowing that that's where we wanted to end up, realizing what kind of people we needed to become in order to bring a child into this world, into the way that we wanted, and kind of surrendering to that process. And then realizing last year, it was one of the hardest years of our life, from a financial place, from a workplace, from a spiritual place. Everything was on the rocks. And we had been living in our house in North Hollywood for 5 years. We've created all of the stability, and then all of a sudden we just felt the rug being pulled out from underneath us. Right? Yeah, we felt everything kind of being pulled out from underneath us, and we felt another like challenge coming, this mountain. Okay, here we go, and again, another mountain we're gonna climb together. And
good Lord, I'll never forget.
Nope, and you were there, sister, man, you were there for that. Oh my God, we could always dive deeper into that, but that was interestingly enough the conduit for what got us ready from a mental standpoint to have children and to want to have children. And it took us
that's amazing.
Yeah, it took us we had to like jump off a cliff, and that's what it took to be like, okay, we're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready for the next stage.
It's almost like you realize, hey, there's, it's never a good time, as cliche as it sounds. It's never a good time. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to have the perfect house and the perfect anything, everything that you want to start a family. Sometimes you just have to just jump off a cliff, like you said, and you guys did it in the thick of it.
Well, and the thing that's interesting,
your baby in the thick of it,
is we had all of it. We were making the money at one point. We had the house. We did the renovations. Our career was going really well. We had a lot of stability. And for some reason, in that mode, we didn't choose to have children. So even then, we knew that there was still...
Yeah, we had the same thing.
There was still something in us that... There was something in us that wasn't activating the thing to pull the trigger to become parents. There was still something in us that needed to be exercised. And it was definitely our willingness, 100%, to let go and let shit hit the fan. And the moment we allowed ourselves to sell our house, to lose everything, that's what it felt like. That's what it seemed like.
Quote unquote.
Us not understanding that we were about to gain so much love, so much more than we could ever imagine. Our willingness to entirely surrender to chaos and to lean into not knowing what's about to happen allowed us to be like, let's have a kid. Let's do this. Now we're ready to be parents. Now we understand just a little bit of what this is going to be like.
Yeah, because honestly, I'm going off on a tangent here based on what we're talking about, but got the bottle? Good.
I got it.
It's when you're just thinking that you can't do it and you're always, kind of pushing it off, even though life is very comfortable, like you said, everything is perfect. The same thing happened with JC and I. We had so much opportunity to have a child throughout the years, but when it was the most comfortable, that's when we didn't do it. And we conceived after selling a house and leaving Montana and all the craziness. We were just not even know where we're gonna live in 5 months. Chaos.
Yeah.
Let's do it,
Yeah.
But yeah, I can completely understand that. But I do think though that when you are handling all these challenges in life, it preps you that by the time you have a baby and baby's actually here, which you're not too far from, you realize that the mountain of fear that people bestow upon you willingly or unwillingly when it comes to having a family, it really isn't that problematic or difficult or miserable or end of your life in any kind of way, because you already endured all this shit before. Yeah. So you're like, what?
If anything,
this is supposed to be what?
Exactly. If anything, I'm like, oh, this sounds fun and relieving.
It's luxury.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to sit there and I call it boobing when I breastfeed Avani. I told you that. When I sit here and I boob Avani and I'm forced to just relax. I can't be on my phone. I can't talk to anyone because she's gotten really picky with what she wants to experience when she's breastfeeding. And I just sit there in this luxury and relax and sink into it and study her little face and her eyes and her eyebrows and eyelashes and her little toes. And it's like, wow, this is so nice.
And I just don't...
it's so beautiful. It's kind of like almost a reward.
And I just don't think that you would be as present with her and grateful for her if it wasn't for all of the pain and the discomfort and the challenge that you and JC were willing to put yourselves through that. And I think through all of that, you guys are also testing each other in a pretty primal way to be like, what can you handle? Am I going to be safe with you? Like if I were to carry your child, how are you going to handle these situations? And I think the more dangerous, risky situations that Philip and I put ourselves in, whether that was the work that we were doing or whatever life was kind of throwing at us, the way that he handled it and the way that I handled it was giving each other the confidence to be like, oh, we're getting ready. We are prepping. We are in boot camp for what it will take to do this. And then to be on the other side of it and to, like you said, it feels like luxury because you're finally doing what you want. in the way that you want it with the person that you chose.
And what makes you feel amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
And it's not at all, it's so different. Yeah, it's not like it's the challenges that, you know, like, oh my God, your life is over. It's a different kind of like, now you have to dedicate this time and you don't have a choice but to do that. And you want to because it feels so good.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how that all comes together. And I love what you said, because watching JC become a papa and how big his shoulders got, literally and physically and spiritually, to watch him, you know, be that. It's just, and you know, I'll admit it's sexy as hell too. Like, you watch your man just become that big papa protector, and he's navigating decisions and doing things. It's like, and we get to nurture and take care of our babies. I'm sure, you know, we'll talk about it, how you're experiencing the pregnancy and getting to have that strong back supporting you. I think it's so beautiful. And it is built on all the challenges that we test each other. Hey, are you strong enough of a mate to handle that for me? Because that's what we need as women, right? We really do need it, as much as we think we want to protest it in our modern age of feminism. There's nothing more that we need than a strong man in our life to be that for us, so we can do the hard shit like being pregnant and having a baby, birthing.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I was going to say. I was like, to me...
That's where you were going?
No, it was already evident in my life that that's what I wanted for myself, and that I wanted to lean into my feminine so that I could experience a masculine partner. And Philip has always done that. And it's actually really fun, because I think we're also extremely fluid in that way, where sometimes I'll be a little more dominant, and then he'll also, you know, he'll be a little bit more nurturing and feminine in certain areas. But specifically with being pregnant, it has relieved me that he's been able to exercise his masculine, that we've had so many circumstances where he's been able to practice providing in a masculine dominant way that allows me, as the pregnant mama that is very fragile, very vulnerable from a mental and a physical standpoint, it's just necessary. Like, for me, it was so necessary to be able to lean into. And my pregnancy has been, overall, like, when I look back on it, it has, even though our life has been freaking chaotic, like, holy shit, have we been doing the craziest of things during this entire pregnancy. There's been this peace that I've been able to access because of his ability to protect me, to keep me safe, and to instill boundaries for me, to advocate for me, so that I can remain in this feminine, nurturing state.
The state
that is necessary for me.
Which is so important.
I want to exercise it, and I want to prioritize myself more than I ever have in my whole life, which is so interesting, because you would think, oh, it's all, and maybe it is, like, maybe it is just all for baby, but I actually feel like one of the relationships that have gotten more deep in my life has been the one with myself during this entire process of pregnancy.
Well, I think it's huge, and it makes sense. Yeah, it makes complete sense what you're saying, because when you go through pregnancy and you are growing a human, yes, it's baby, but in all honesty, you are becoming a whole new person, a whole new woman through that experience. You know, it's like, you're no longer maiden, you're not yet fully mother. You're in that portal, like, you're going through this portal for a long time, and you are changing so much. I bet that if you're thinking back already, you are not the same person you were before. You were before you started this journey. You are not the same person. I wasn't.
No, I feel, and I feel, and I knew this. This was one of the reasons why I personally decided that I was ready to start trying with Philip. We had our individual reasons, and then we had our relationship reasons for wanting to try. We decided, once we sold our house, once we were homeless, once we started investing into a small business, that it was the perfect time to start trying for a child. Like, we don't need a house. We don't need money. We don't need time. No, let's do it anyway. Do this. But there were certain spiritual and very like personal values that got me to the point of being able to be like, I want this. And one of them was the feeling of, I know the woman that I want to be is on the other side of this experience. I just know it. I don't know who she is or what she looks like in the world, but I know the only way for me to access her is through this specific experience. I have to.
I love that.
And I think it actually is because the experience is so isolating. It can feel so lonely, but I think I needed that because Philip and I, our entire relationship was built around sharing a reality with each other, and this was this is one of those experiences that he would never understand and not be able to go on with me in the way that he's like experiencing what I'm feeling the entire time. And I knew for myself, I need to learn who I am when I'm entirely alone, when I'm isolated. How do I take care of myself? How do I depend on myself? Where do I pull from when I'm alone and needing to nurture myself for something bigger than myself? Who am I when I'm actually not living for myself anymore and I'm preparing for something much bigger than me?
The responsibility, the massive...
I was way too curious to know who that version of me becomes, than just staying and remaining as I was. And
as a maiden.
Yeah. And that was always an option. And I think Philip and I, again, it stems from the values of the relationship. I think it starts so much earlier than we think. We value changing, both of us. We want to change. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be recognizable by the end of our life together. I mean, that should be a life
default. It's...
Yeah, we don't want to know.
That should be a life default, I think. It's...
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah.
That we are...
You know, if you live your whole life as the way you were 20, like, what have you actually experienced when you're 20 and you stay like that when you're 90? What do you have to look back on, right?
And it's so... That's so contradicting to our work and our industry, you know? Like, our industry really... we talked about this in the last podcast, but it really does glorify youth and staying the same, remaining as you are, so that you are easily digestible and your identity is easily understood. But Philip and I, that is not our personal... That is not why we're here on Earth together. That is not our goal as a couple. That is not our goal.
Your purpose and your mission
as a household. It is to...
Yeah, it's deeper than that. It's less selfish. I feel like, you know, we talked about this in our last podcast too, is that the focus on the self really hinders us from reaching our potential and reaching the other side, like you say. Like, what are you like when you're raising a family with a couple little babies and, you know, you have something way bigger than just your own paycheck or the next vacation you can take or the next, you know, piece of technology, whatever it is, you know, we get to really learn what's on the other side together. And I think that is so beautiful. And what people don't realize, that the commitment to that is actually what makes life so spicy, you know? The commitment to wanting to be pregnant. It's to want to be pregnant is huge, because you are literally hosting this being growing inside you, and you know it's going to change you physically, and you put that fear aside from, you know, like we talk about, it's not just in Hollywood, it's a culture across, you know, our modern society where youth is glorified, and there's a reason why all these things like Botox exist and all that stuff, right? We make a conscious decision to say, you know what? I'm no longer going to stay in that box, and I'm going to step out of that, no matter how lonely it can feel in our culture today as women. Because now, hey, your belly is not going to have a six-pack anymore. It'll be different. It won't be bad, quote unquote, like by the standards that we talk about today, right? But it's not going to be that same anymore, right? So you make that courageous step to step out of that. But my God, you get so much back. And that whole period of being pregnant is like, it really is a beautiful, like a spicy time to watch your body transform. You know, watching my husband react to the way my body transforms, the things that he notices that I didn't, and vice versa. It's the opposite of restrictive.
I was gonna say, and I want more women to know this, because there is this, and I haven't like completely cornered it yet, but there actually is a sense of becoming, it's not more selfish, but more interested in yourself in a way that serves the world. I think I care about myself more, and I've actually loved myself more pregnant than I was able to when I wasn't. I have better boundaries for myself from a spiritual standpoint. I speak up for myself in a way that I was never able to before, because it's not just about me anymore. It's now affecting this entire other fragile being. And he my baby has created this incredible obstacle that's forcing me to teach the world what I need now in order to survive and feel safe.
Yeah.
I have to prioritize my eating and my health.
The way you eat.
In a way.
It's so different. Like, I'm just looking at my bowl here, and it's got the fruits and the proteins and the carbs.
I have never drank so much water in my entire life. I'm like, I was always dehydrated in my 20s, and now I'm like, oh, I'm freaking glowing because I'm actually nourishing myself. And then on top of that, to find a way to love myself as I like notice, I'm like, okay, like, yeah, my arms are filling out a little bit.
There's
like
softness.
Yeah, I'm like, but with that,
like this feminine softness.
But with that, my skin is becoming softer. And, you know, as my belly grows, watching Philip admire the expansion and not cringe at it. And like, yesterday, he, like, you know, I was changing and I was entirely naked, and I'm just laughing at myself because I'm like, Philip, I'm so pregnant right now. Like, oh my God, it's so real. And
that's literally what I said all the time.
I just can't. And it's so hard because your brain is just still trying, even at 8 months, like still trying to catch up and be like, holy shit, it's happening. But it's like, at this point, you know, my boobs are just huge and my belly is huge. And I'm at the side, and he's like, I just want to.
You can't see your toes. I know you can't see him.
No, I can't see him at this point. He's just like, it's just so fucking miraculous what your body is doing right now.
Yeah.
And to watch, like, he's like, I've seen your body change throughout even the 7 years that we've been together and fluctuate in its own ways. But he's like, this is just another level of beauty and of magic that he's never witnessed and that he loves. And it actually, you know, even during pregnancy, this is something I would love to like dive into more too, is the intimacy during pregnancy. Because for me, every time he says that he's attracted to me, I am genuinely surprised, because there's a part of me that's like, how? Like, I don't understand.
That's literally how I felt with JC.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't get it, but it's what you said. It's that stupid thing that we've been taught, that like a certain look or a certain way of being toned or shaped is attractive sexually. But my man is literally teaching me every day through pregnancy, like the physical expansion has no reflection of your appeal from a sexual standpoint.
Did you find it the opposite? Because with JC, he was like, oh my God, your boobs are so beautiful. Like,
oh no,
you know, every single thing that he would see how I change.
Yes.
It's like, maybe because part of it could be because we are carrying their baby. And it's maybe all instinctual too.
For sure. I'm sure
but after all, men are attracted to fertility. Like, you know.
Well, and Philip and I are really, like, we're, like, really weirdly honest with each other. And he has even said, he's like, oh, I've seen pregnant women. He's like, I'm attracted to them. Like, but it's, I think it is, from his perspective, there is this, like, biological, like, admiration for the choice to choose to carry a child that is really attractive. And then he said, honestly, just from a physical standpoint, like there's just this like voluptuous
you
beauty.
Look really beautiful pregnant.
You did too, mamas.
Like, you are just gorgeous.
You were glowing. I mean, you're still glowing. It's like, now I just feel like it's permanent on you. Like, you're permanently just...
Hey, it's the mama glow. It stays. It really does.
Yeah.
And it could be leading back to what you said, is that we are so focused on taking care of our babies, you know, whether they're in our belly or they're already out, especially if you choose to breastfeed, which is a whole other topic that we could talk about in a different episode. But it forces you to take care of yourself because it's not just about you anymore. You know, I've been so diligent about the way I eat all this time. It's been a long time. I sit there and I look at alcohol and I'm like, not interested. Zero interest. You know, food, junk food. I cannot imagine drinking a Diet Coke or a Coke right now. I would feel guilty for the rest of my life, you know? Yeah. And before, I could sneak in a soda like once a year. But now I would not do those things, right? So I think it's all connected. It's just so interesting that we have this perception of our men that they won't be attracted to us, but when you're in it, you realize it's completely different. I mean, like, I'll be honest, I was in labor and, you know, we were making love and it was like the most beautiful thing on earth.
Wait, you guys were making love when you were in labor?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that could make me sob. Victoria, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. You wait. Because you have that special connection with your husband.
I mean, well, I actually wanted to talk about sex during pregnancy.
Well, there's stages of labor.
Yes, there is. You're right. You weren't like in transition yet. Like, you were transitioning.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Well, you never know what I'll do at number 2, but like baby number 2, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, but, there's more certainty. No, but I really want to talk about, and we've talked about it a little bit intimately, but sex during pregnancy it's actually been such a beautiful unraveling, and I feel like I'm learning a new way of intimacy, both Philip and I, and we have actually decided to really simplify our intimacy and not... And this is very different than what I've heard. Like, I've heard a lot of pregnant moms actually being like, their libido is super high and they're like wanting sex all the time. I have actually felt quite different than that. I felt completely opposite on the scale, where I felt very... And again, I think it goes back into the lonely mama feeling that I kind of have kept like... indulging and feeling throughout the different trimesters, but feeling this isolation and actually the want to be isolated from a physical standpoint and actually not messed with, but like not be touched in that way. It's really interesting. I have felt that boundary, and I never really felt that before, obviously, before this, but it's felt really important for me to actually take sex and to take the process of sex and intimacy and to take it really slowly with Philip. And it actually feels like we're getting to know each other for the first time from an intimate standpoint.
In a new way. Because I also attributed sex to me having to feel sexy in order to enjoy it. And it's been hard for me to be attracted to myself. I'm attracted to my husband, but it's been hard for me to be attracted to myself. And so for me to feel the comfort in indulging in sex has not felt as intuitive as it has in the past. So that has been such a fascinating and at first scary feeling, where I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? But then, you know, through that, Philip and I, we just were openly talking about it, and we're like, you know what?
I think even from this like primal biological standpoint, like we've done the thing that we've wanted to do. We had sex to have the baby, and now it's happening, and my body is now processing that, and it's okay that it's processing that in its way. That might take its time.
Yeah.
And
everybody's different.
Everybody is different.
Yeah, and every pregnancy is actually different. What I heard from mamas, who had more than one baby, is that the entire pregnancy itself, what you experience and, from a sexual standpoint and just how you feel can be so different. But I always wonder, because I've had my own different experiences. Like the first trimester, I was also kind of really like
that's a hard time.
It's
a hard time to...
Yeah, I didn't... I didn't want to... It's not I didn't want this, like, the intimacy. I actually wanted so much touch and love. And every time JC would just like touch my neck or like my back, I would just feel like I just want to crawl inside him. It was like a different type of intimate and physical connection.
Yes.
And it also makes me wonder could it be that your body and babe early in pregnancy especially goes, you know what? This door has not closed, but it's still in the middle of closing and planting itself in, because we all know the first trimester is a riskier time of pregnancy. Yeah, so I think some of us can get really crazy when we make love and we have the experiences with our men. So it's just a way to protect that, like the same reason that most of us shouldn't be running in our first trimester, because it's harder on our bodies. Intimacy can be hard on our bodies if it's not gentle, and not all of us are mindful of that. So I wonder if it's the body and babe going, hey, we're just gonna prioritize their hormones this and that way, so you don't want to do these and those things, and if you do, it's going to be in a completely different way than before. It's just something that I've speculated on before, because it's not like you didn't want Philip to touch you, like not be touched, like literally like a hug or warmth or whatever. No, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, but it's exactly what you said. I actually think that's what's been so beautiful about the entire pregnancy, is us nuancing intimacy. It's not just sex. For both of us. That's not that's not actually the goal. The goal is comfort and safety and enjoyment and pleasure. And that can come in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And realizing that, like, from a psychological standpoint, for me, sometimes the idea of us not being alone together would get in my head, because I'm like, we literally have this being in between us, and I can't fully feel like I can just be what I used to be in the bedroom with you, like, because it feels I'm just different. I am different. And so in order to ease my mind and to make me feel like maybe there's a less intrusive way, literally, to enjoy each other from an intimate standpoint, let's play with the nuance and the complexity of what that can be. And that has been really, really beautiful and really important, because even for him, like, he's realizing just touching, just caressing, just like gentle massage can be so important, just as important as the act of...
And it can feel just as beautiful, like the intimacy itself. And if you do end up making love, it feels like...
And I actually feel
like rushing this new feelings, right?
And I feel like a lot of the time when you do take the pressure off of the outcome being sex itself, it ends up just happening in the most beautiful, natural way. Yeah. Because you just have to, and it just feels safe.
But you just relaxed into it.
Yeah, but it at least allows both minds to feel at peace and at ease and safe enough to indulge the spontaneity of it. And we've been playing with that, with the nuance of touch and intimacy, and it's been so beautiful for us, and it's been really necessary for me and for him. And that isn't what I expected during pregnancy at all, because I heard so many other, like, different experiences that were, just different. Like you said, everyone has different relationship, different dynamics. I was very
much like you too. Yeah, I was very much like you too in that sense. Parched, breastfeeding. My boobies are taking all the milk and the drink and the liquid. So I'm constantly thirsty.
Draining you.
But yeah, it felt very much the same. I was craving the safety, the comfort, the touch, and which led us to actually make love and to have sex. Like that went that path, but it was so different than before. But I would love to know if this was the same for you. I never lamented that. I felt I enjoyed every moment of that change, because we've had like 17 years of intimacy before that. And it's always been beautiful, but we got to learn a whole new side of us that we didn't experience before. And as long as you're not trying to compare yourself to others, not that I told you that we actually made love when I was in labor, early labor. Like, I wish I didn't say that, because I don't want you to feel that this is what you need to do. It's like we think that, oh, if we don't experience what other women experience, then it's not as great. But if we trust ourselves and lean into what we're experiencing, what our baby's telling you, what our bodies are telling us, the relationship, and we just relax into it, like you said, it leads to that anyways. If we have a good relationship with our men. So, for me, it's beautiful. Gosh, I miss being pregnant. I keep telling you that, but I really miss being pregnant. All of it,
Did you
discomfort,
feel
the beauty, all of it.
Did you feel that way at this stage of pregnancy that I'm at, or did you feel more ready to not be pregnant? Because at this point, I am now starting to be like, I'm just so excited to meet him. But also there is a part of me that's so excited to, with everything that I've learned during pregnancy and like who I've become now, I am so excited to be like my own separate entity again. Like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, Makenzie, you are gonna be able to like enjoy things in a way of and it might be too because I'm so like heavily active and I'm wanting to be agile and having to like surrender to being a little bit more
to the size,
to the weight, to the pace,
to the lung pressure, right?
To the lung pressure.
Yeah.
There's like certain things that are forcing me to surrender, and then there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I can't wait not to go back. It's it's to go forward with what I know now.
To go forward. Oh, I love that.
That is what I'm really excited for. It's not that you miss your
past, you just want to see the next.
Yes. I can't wait to, like, honestly, I told Philip this yesterday. I was like, I can't wait to be intimate with each other once, like, postpartum. Like, I cannot wait to, like, feel the privacy again of, like, it's just us again. Because I think that is so sacred and so beautiful. And obviously it's been so profound to literally have our baby in the middle of our love during pregnancy. Literally at the center of it all. But I cannot wait. Like, I'm so excited to be on the other end, of that and experience us there again. But I want to know, like, did you feel that at this point, or were you ready to not be pregnant? And now that you're not pregnant, you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to be pregnant again.
I love that question, because I have been thinking about it over time, kind of self-analyzing, because it seems that the farther away I am from pregnancy, the more I miss it. So I don't know if it's like a natural thing that we just, once we experience the high of pregnancy and especially birth and everything that goes along with being a new mama, you just miss that high. It's like this natural drug that I'm completely okay committing to for the rest of my life. And you just want it again. But at your stage, when, kind of like the last months, you're about to enter something different than the third trimester. I think I told you that. That's a whole other topic. But I started missing my pregnancy towards the last 2-3 weeks of pregnancy, because I had, it's almost like I was mourning that she's no longer going to be inside me. Like now, my whole heart is going to be outside of my body. It's like I already, at this stage of pregnancy, you feel your baby more, and you know what your baby is like. You get to know them. And I was kind of mourning that stage of the pregnancy being gone, and kind of wish I can keep her there for a little bit longer.
Wow.
That makes me so emotional. I hadn't even thought about that. And it's also really easy to lean into like the agitation, especially because it's summer and I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm hot.
I mean,
I'm bothered.
Okay. Before you say anything, I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it was really comfortable. My last weeks of pregnancy, it was not physically, the Braxton Hicks started kicking in. I had all kinds of stuff going on. Going to the bathroom was a whole other story, like all these different things. I feel like it's your body getting ready to say, we are done collectively, mama, baby, we are done together. We're going to go through the portal. Yeah. I had those things too. Don't sit here and feel like, I'm like, I'm just dancing my way to birth. Yeah. I definitely didn't have that, but I just had these like simultaneous, just these things like, oh my gosh, like, wow, we are here. Like we are in the last weeks of pregnancy. I feel so honored and blessed that I'm here and I can actually, experience this. And soon I'm gonna feel like, oh my god, my heart is outside of my chest, like I want it back. And it only really started hitting me. And it's like only about probably about like a week or so after she was born, I was actually crying. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, you are about to start growing up and become your own entity, and I have to like learn and accept to let you go and protect you in the same time. But it really is, it's this balance of like the way you feel about everything, and it's such a beautiful time that the more I found myself relishing and enjoying those moments of having her inside me, I'm grateful for those times, no matter how hard it was. If that makes any sense. Now that after the fact, and I'm like, I can't wait to be pregnant again. Like, bring me all of it.
No, it only makes sense. And I think there's this, like, something I will miss now that you're bringing it up. I'm so glad you're bringing all this up, because it's gonna go by so fast. Like this last month or month and a half, whatever he needs, it's such a small amount of time in comparison to the amount of life that we're going to be experiencing with each other. And one thing that I have loved, and again, this comes with being like, I feel like the point of this podcast is actually to enjoy being the lonely mama. I feel like for me, that's actually what I'm.
There's a whole part that we haven't covered, but
no, we haven't. But I actually think that there's like a beautiful side to the lonely mama, because it again, you are alone, you are isolated, and the perception of that can sometimes be it can feel sad or hopeless, or you can feel alone in a way that isn't empowering. But the crazy thing is that you've never been more not alone. And being able to like access him whenever I want is something that I feel like pregnancy has given me, because he, like you said, he's a part of
priceless.
Me. He's a literal part of my body right now, and I can speak, I can download or think towards him. I feel like there's this filter that I can push things into him whenever they come through my mind. And that is something that I have never experienced before and been able to share with anything. It's usually just you, and you're alone in your body and your brain. But for the first time in my life, I'm not. And I think even
when you're driving, right? You're driving alone in the car, and you're like, you're not alone. He's not right there with you.
No, he's there with you, and he's not imposing himself. He's not. It's so different than when you're next to a external being. It is.
He is a part of you.
He's this. It's an essence. It's this power. It's almost like a power source that you can feel and know that whatever room I walk into, I'm not walking out by myself. And regardless of maybe how uncomfortable I'll be today, I didn't experience it by myself. It was felt by some other being that is witnessing, even if it's not maybe in the way that we can now. He's witnessing my days. He's witnessing my emotions. He's witnessing all of the different truths that I'm holding. Like you were saying, all of the
to them too, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And that is
the way you feel and everything.
And what you eat and how much stress you have that day. If you're feeling good, if you're not, they are witnessing and responding to that in a way that's not, again, imposing. It's just reminding you that you're not alone. And that
Isn't it interesting too, Makenzie, how we'll get right back to the show. But first, let's briefly talk about something very important. So many women today have no idea about the toxic poisons hidden in our everyday products we use, like laundry detergent, deodorant, makeup, shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, moisturizers, sunscreen, and so much more. These harmful ingredients negatively affect our health, hormones, and yes, our fertility. Hidden toxins in our everyday use products directly impact our ability to conceive, have a healthy pregnancy, and birth a healthy baby. One of the most critical steps I took on my journey to optimize my fertility and heal, and to have a healthy pregnancy, was swapping out these toxic products for safe and non-toxic alternatives. That's why I love the Wellness Box. I shop from a selection of over 500 truly safe, non-toxic products that I trust for my family, and it gets delivered right to my door. Plus, it's more affordable than shopping at places like Target, Whole Foods, or Walmart. Every product is manufactured in-house right here in the USA by a private company that ensures true quality, safety, and nature-friendly products. Follow the link in the show notes of this episode to learn more about where I shop, so you can get your own wellness box filled with healthy, non-toxic products shipped right to your door. And now, back to the show. Isn't it interesting how you're like, it's almost like you do have to be in this process alone sometimes, or often enough, that you can actually get to sink into the pregnancy, sink into what you're creating. I mean, when I say alone, I mean outside of the house, not outside of the household. So like alone with Philip, or alone with yourself, alone in your space, where there's nothing else going on. You actually need that isolation and that loneliness to be able to really feel it and really, really go there in your pregnancy. Because, when you're outside doing things, you're busy, you're working. Like I remember through my pregnancy, I was working on calls and, working on different things in our business. And it's like this disconnect of what's actually happening to me was really profound, that when Avani actually gave me like a nice jolt and kick, I was like, yes. I was like, okay, yeah, you're still here. I am pregnant. This is happening. It's like that little reminder. Yeah. But you just get so all over the place that that loneliness is so important to sink into. And now you're sinking even deeper into it because you're getting closer to birth. You need that space and the loneliness. But the relationship that you have with Philip, and you can add me in a way to the picture too, is that safety is so different that it allows you to bring us into that space. But everything else is like you're just shutting the world off because you actually need that loneliness for your pregnancy. That's how I felt. Like I remember even when I was in labor, and, we didn't tell anyone that we went into labor. And I was getting messages from this one and that one. And and I would see a message pop up on the phone from people or emails, and they would be so intrusive to my psyche. But when I saw yours, I was like, oh, Kenzie, And you would be the only message I was listening to in labor.
Yeah,
right?
I remember you responding. You responding to my messages. Like you were giving me advice because I was slightly anemic. I just had found out. And you were like giving me supplements. I'm like, this woman is in the early stages of labor giving me advice. She's insane. But I get it.
Well, I mean, that speaks a lot to,
I get it.
It's like that deep connection that we have, that intimate connection that allows to step into our like required lonely space. But I kind of wanted to touch on something that I feel is so important that we haven't talked about, because, you know, we talk about how Philip feels in your time, and, you know, how safe that feels, and our sisterhood, how that feels in pregnancy, how it felt to me, and how it's feeling to you now. But it's not like that in our current modern world.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to pregnancy and it comes to sisterhood, there is, and that's something I didn't prepare for, you know, before becoming pregnant. And I don't know if it's something that was on your mind, maybe not, but I was so focused on wanting to be pregnant and becoming a mama that I didn't think it's like, oh, becoming pregnant and everything is going to just go from there. You know, it's like that was my only goal, like this narrow vision. And then after that, like whatever happens, right? But then I started realizing how lucky and blessed I was to have you in my life to share the pregnancy along the way. Because honestly, if I didn't have you from a woman perspective, from such a close sisterhood, my whole pregnancy would have been so lonely. And it's so deeply because of what's going on in our modern world today. You know, you don't see families, you don't see a bunch of pregnant bellies walking around everywhere. You know, you don't, it's not common in our life today, especially in bigger cities. You know, we used to see more children, but now it's kind of like an afterthought. And I didn't realize the comments that I would get, reactions I would get. And I kind of want to step back a little bit. I know it wasn't like your favorite time in your life, but I remember when you first, you know, when you first found out you're pregnant, and the excitement, and you shared it with me, but then it came to the point of sharing with others, and sharing it with women that are not in that mindset of having a family themselves, or maybe it's like way tucked away in the subconscious, how they reacted to you and how that felt, you know. I remember you experiencing that. I would love for you to share with our listeners here, because I think it's a good thing to be prepared for, to know that not everybody is going to be excited for you when you first tell them that you're pregnant. And it's unfortunate, but it's especially unfortunate because it's so much more prevalent, you know, between women. And I want you to share, if you're okay with that, of course, what that was like and your experience, because, you know, you have a lot more in-person relationships than I do.
It was disorienting. Like you said, I was preparing so much for pregnancy so that when it happened, it only felt like a celebration. It also felt really funny to Philip and I, because we were like, this timing is insane. We were insanely lucky that it was our first try, which is very rare these days for a couple to try once and to be fertile enough to continue the process of pregnancy. And we were lucky enough to be in that situation. So it happened a lot faster than we planned. Yeah. So it was very comical. It was like at a comical point in our life that felt like, oh, this is so us. Like, of course, we don't have a home. We don't have a job. We're building our own business. You were living in the business,
right, at that point?
We had just moved out of the business. We were living in...
Oh, yeah.
Literally living in demolition. So we moved into our office space. We renovated it for 3 months. When we moved out, we decided to start trying, because we're like, if we don't start now, we're going to look up and it's going to be 5 years and we're going to be like, fuck. Why did we wait?
Yeah.
So we were like,
why did we wait that long?
This is the time.
We would have pulled a Victoria.
Yeah. No, and honestly, you probably instigated it subconsciously somehow, because you were
I didn't mean to, but I did.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. But that's actually like having a woman in my life that was wanting a child was important for me, because it was evidence that that's allowed and that's permitted for me to feel as well.
And it's not miserable.
No, it's not miserable, and it's exciting. And so we went for it, and we got excited. And like I said, it was only a celebration, especially for our families. And we're very lucky for both of our parents for wanting to be also invested into the child's life. And I think that also gave us a sense of security when we decided to try, was knowing that we would have a family on both ends that would be supporting us. And we felt really lucky for that. So it only felt like a positive choice. Now, granted, again, it did not match our life. So when we started to tell our friends, I could tell that all of our friends were like, and not all of them, but I could tell that a lot of individuals were very confused, because based off of maybe their own values and their own idea of when is the right time to have a kid, we were destroying that reality in their brain.
That ideal, that reality.
That you need to be ready. And I think it frightened people. I think it maybe, spooked some of our friends, some of our even just like acquaintances that we were starting to tell. It was like, oh shit. So, and I even think it created a pressure on some people, because they're like, oh shit, I don't have my life together, but they're still doing it. So now that's not an excuse for me. So why am I actually not wanting to have it? I think whenever somebody hears that somebody is pregnant, you immediately, at least I think for most of the women that I interacted with, you cannot help but assess your own personal values around it.
Because it's just so instinctual.
And we are constantly juggling with that internal conflict of when and do I want to and why and I think,
but when you see it right in front of you, it's like, wow, you can't just go anymore. It's like this thing that maybe I don't even want, and then your nature comes back, your human being, your woman, and goes, this is what I also want, and you are stopping me from doing that. And this woman is pregnant, and look at you could be pregnant too right now.
Exactly. And so
it feels very instinctual.
Oh, 100%. And I think what's hard is I don't remember ever feeling that way when someone shared that they were pregnant with me. So I think that's why I immediately took it very personal, because I felt like, man, in the past, I never...
So like, how were people reacting to you? So like, how was it? Like, walk through our listeners what that was like. I mean, you don't have to give an exact example, because this point is not really about shaming anyone. It's more about just having this open necessary conversation, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's say Jessica, like let's say you meet Jessica and you've known her for a while, and you're like, you're friends, and then you're like, hey, you're becoming so excited, I'm pregnant, like you're telling her. Yeah. What was the common reaction?
Shock. So not immediate excitement. It felt like shock. Like, wow. Really? Interesting. Interesting. It felt simply like that. And I took it so personal in the beginning, because first trimester is so fragile from a mental and physical standpoint. So even getting the courage to share the information is so vulnerable, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're getting excited about something.
Not that early.
Yeah. It's just, you don't know where you are. So at the time, it hurt my feelings that it wasn't immediately like, oh my God, I am so excited for you and Philip. It was like, was this intentional? Was this planned? Yeah. Did you guys actually want this?
Like, are you not happy for me?
Yeah. And I felt...
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I got that too.
Yeah, I felt them...
Like somebody literally asked me if it was a mistake.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild that they would even, like, verbally ask. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, if it was a mistake.
I didn't have anyone
outwardly say that, but I did have the emotions associated
reaction
with
feeling
with that phrase. I felt it, and the thing that was most disorienting for me was that it mostly came from all of my girlfriends, and I think that was
women.
I think that was really interesting because, and now at this point in my pregnancy, I think I actually have a very different outlook that has a lot more empathy for that reaction, because I think it is so confusing right now. All of us are so confused on if we should have children or not. Should we do it or not? Like, we're genuinely confused.
Yeah.
Do we progress our relationship?
Well, yeah. Our culture has done a number. Culture has done a number on us and what we value.
It's genuinely confusing. And also in my industry, like, life isn't easy in LA. It's really hard to survive here. Like I said, Philip and I went through the hardest year of our life last year. We were so lucky that we happened to be in a situation where we invested in property that allowed us a second to get an investment back and think about what we wanted to do next. Not everybody is in a situation that allows them to think and plan and manifest something outside of themselves. And I think a lot of, especially at this time in life, a lot of people are just living as in the moment as they can, and looking far into the future is actually quite scary. And I think I felt that reaction in a lot of the people that I shared it with, and I took it really personally, not understanding that it had nothing to do with me or Philip or even their excitement.
Yeah, it wasn't you.
Or even their excitement for us. It was, oh, holy shit. We were a reflection that time is going by, that that life is moving forward regardless if we're ready or not. And it also reflects their own personal beliefs about if they're ready or not in that moment. And they're juggling all of that.
Or even if they want to have children.
Or even if they want it. And it's all
like,
happening at the same time.
Yeah,
and
because
and the pregnant, and it's really not fair for anybody. Like, and then the pregnant mama, again, who is vulnerable, is then retrieving that response immediately. And it's really not fair for anybody in that moment, because it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot to understand. And I now going into my next pregnancy, I will probably not share.
I love that you're saying that.
Oh yeah. Lots of babies.
Lots of babies.
yeah. That's
baby town.
Baby town. Baby village. Baby village is the plan. But for my next pregnancy, I would want to hold in the news a little longer for us.
Yes.
And
that's why we did.
And share it with my mama friends, which I think was an intuition that I did have and that I did abide by, but then I started just getting a little bit more excited, more comfortable, and wanting to like give people context for our life more. So I wanted to share it with people. But the next round, I would keep a little bit of it in, and not in a way that's like, oh, I'm like suppressing it. It's actually for me to enjoy it with myself, enjoy learning how to enjoy the news for myself and not having to share it with people in order to enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I felt like I had to share it.
It really does charge you.
Yeah, in order to enjoy it. And that was completely wrong. I didn't need to share the news.
No, actually,
to be
when
happy
you put
about
it out, like when you, like once you put it out, you actually leave it outside, especially if it's not reciprocated. It's different if it's reciprocated, because I remember when you told me, you were like, I'm reading what did you say, that book? And I was like, why does she have she have that book? It's first 40 days. I was like, okay, you're pregnant.
You immediately
I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I knew right away.
Yeah.
But it's like when you get the reciprocation like that, like I was in tears, you know?
were crying immediately.
Then it feels different. Yeah, it feels different when you receive that. But if it's met with hesitation and the lack of celebration, then it's definitely a lot harder on you, because you're leaving all the energy out without bringing it back in.
It's very vulnerable.
I think that's probably what you experienced. And and it's not, it's not really any of our faults that we are experiencing this today, but it's definitely something to look at ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Because I'll give you an example that I found a really funny observation since being a mama, and especially watching JC be a papa. Like, we would be out, like, since this whole, like, almost 5 months, gosh, I can't believe time is going so fast, but this whole 5 months we're out together, and JC really likes to carry her. Like, we use the stroller sometimes, but he really likes to carry her. You know, she's heavy, and he carries her on his shoulder or in his arms, and we just run errands or go to a restaurant. And the way women look at JC, like, I don't want to be too vulgar on this podcast, but I can tell that something is happening to them when they watch him with his baby. You know, it's so attractive to the female mind to see that perfect papa with his little babe, and you know, his wife is there too, and it's like it's something that we so instinctively want. And I think that one of the biggest things for us to, if any of us listening, any of you listening, if you see a pregnant mama, or if you see a family together, and if you see that very human thing that, you know, some are still doing today, and it draws you'll see you can't help yourself. You smile, you say a comment. Like, the comments and the words that JC's gotten because of Avani is insane. Like, people don't leave him alone. Even men, they love on him all the time. And even when I have Avani, but it's just crazy to see how women react to JC. Lean into that. There's your nature, your conscience, your human, your woman is talking to you. That what would make you feel really fulfilled is being pregnant, is becoming a mama, is having a husband worthy enough to be a father, you know, making the right choices in your mates, and all of that. Listen to it, because that it's not just, you know, what we experience being lonely up in our pregnancy because of how the reactions that we're getting, but all women feel lonely when they see that. And you can tell, like, it's like this thing that goes on a woman's face where you're like, wow, she just saw her whole life in front of you and she wishes she could do that. It's a lonely place to be, because you have no one to tell that you're dying to do the same, and your nature just flashed in front of your eyes, and you're like completely interrupted by your daily thing that you're doing, and taking care of the self and all these things we cover on this podcast. Now you are sinking even deeper in this space, and the conflict, the mental conflict that we women experience when we are not fulfilling our womanhood, and when we get exposed to being told by a friend that, you know, we're pregnant. It's real. There's a reason why that's happening, and it's an even lonelier place to be as a woman that's not pursuing that direction. So it's like you were saying, it's kind of like on both ends that's happening, and it's no one's fault. But we have the ability to stop and go, like, what's happening to us? Why are we feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why did I just react this way? Or why did my friend react to me that way? Instead of creating more of a lonelier space for all of us, let's recognize that and say, hey, there is something here. Let's talk about this. You know, let's not ignore this anymore. Because when you actually open up the conversation, like, maybe, you know, if your friends weren't scared enough, or the one that told me those things, and say, oh, wow, like, that's so cool. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. At least open with that. You know, I'm so happy for you, even if it's not like 100% what you're feeling. And then you leave the door open for conversation. Then you can start asking questions like, how's your pregnancy going? Because, you know, once we women start talking about this to each other, the conversations that we've had around pregnancy and birth and being a mama is the most profound we've ever shared in our sisterhood. Yep. It's beautiful. It's nothing scary, and we shouldn't miss out on it. I really wanted to bring that to the table, because the disconnect is really sad on all fronts, and it really doesn't have to be that way.
No, and I think there's so much missed opportunity to learn how to stay connected to each other even through a different experience. And I think a lot of my friends maybe felt like, oh, I'm losing her. And it could have even come from a place of like mourning what we were together. And I can understand that. I can entirely understand the feeling of losing somebody to someone else. But I don't, that doesn't have to happen. That actually isn't
Exactly.
That doesn't have to be the case. And you know what's really cool is, as you were, speaking about all of that, a lot of, I think two of the reactions that I got that were a little bit hesitant, and I could sense a feeling of discomfort and inner conflict, those two relationships throughout my pregnancy have actually unraveled to be some of the sweetest at this point now in my pregnancy. And it's interesting because I was so heavily affected by their reaction from personally that I retreated, and then I never brought it up again because I was so sensitive, and I didn't want to make them uncomfortable. I didn't want to feel uncomfortable again. So I did not center my pregnant experience in our conversations. And it actually gave them the freedom to bring it up on their own when they were ready, and to find interest when they felt comfortable. And even though that wasn't like maybe exactly what I wanted at first, like I wanted everyone to react like you, which isn't fair to everybody. But when I allowed them to be themselves and to meet me when they were ready, and also after I had already like relished in the joy on my own and realized I don't need their reaction to be excited about my baby. I could be excited on my own. When I found that inner joy and that inner fulfillment with the news of my pregnancy, it allowed them the freedom to meet me in a new place. And the way that they have showed up in my pregnancy has been so appropriate in the way that it feels genuine. It doesn't feel like they're trying to be there for me. They're being there for me in the way that they're available. And I actually appreciate that so much because it exists. And like I said, we're learning how to be friends while being different, while so much of our life was being friends because we were the same. And it's like, how do we learn to continue to hold each other and be there for each other, even if our identities are shifting and we might not be aligning in a similar shared reality? How can we find deep connection and understanding and compassion for each other? And that has commonality. And it's been so beautiful. The only reason though I think it's beautiful is because I'm enjoying not having to share the same reality with everyone again. And I'm now enjoying the process of my isolation. I like being alone. At this stage in pregnancy, I'm like, fuck yes, I'm alone. No one's around. I could just worry about myself. I can just I can assess. I can slowly assess and process. My belly. Yeah. I can massage my belly. I can just dream of what do I want to talk to this little baby about? How can I just be the most giddy and excited about what I'm about to do and not feel bad about it and enjoy doing that with myself? That has been such a cool evolution of where it began, because at first, I was so sad.
I remember it was heartbreaking.
I was so sad. And again, I took it so personal, and I was very confused because all of my male friends were more emotional and more congratulatory and celebratory. Congratulatory. I don't even know if that's a word. Celebratory. When I told them.
We just made it up.
Than my female friends, and that hurt my heart because I was like, oh my gosh, but I want to bond with my girls on this, and I just didn't feel that. And all of my guys were there, and I realized immediately, I'm like, well, they have less inner conflict with the whole idea of pregnancy. It's to them, it's just,
they don't have to be pregnant to begin with.
No, so there's no the stakes for them in general are just lower than a woman's, and they also just don't have that's something that men don't have to really negotiate in their head as a good or bad thing. When they find out someone's pregnant, it's usually awesome, cool, you're excited. That's it was so, there was no I didn't feel any kind of hesitance
at all. It was all excitement. And that was so fascinating to me. And kind of, honestly, now that I look at it, again, from where I am now, kind of beautiful, because those relationships were actually the relationships that I got to deepen, that I wasn't expecting. And now that now that I think of it, I think it's because I was leaning so heavily into my feminine that my masculine friends actually felt really valuable to me as a friend. So maybe it made them feel like, ooh, this friendship it feels like the exchange is even and balanced, where maybe it's hard when you're heavily feminine to dive in with your feminine. I don't know. Well, that's not the case, because with us, we just completely like melded into our feminine together. So I don't know what that is, but I did feel.
Yeah, I think you touched on it though.
These different dynamics when bringing up pregnancy and being fascinated with the reactions and the amount of variety of reactions that we got.
Yeah.
But mostly, like,
it's incredible.
On a public standpoint, though, like through social media and stuff, like, we were
that was crazy.
Encouraged and supported,
showered
in a way that,
with love.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, it was very clear that everyone knew that,
I was so happy to see that.
Yeah, it was really beautiful, and it got me excited at that point, because that was when we knew that, baby is safe, and that I can really lean into understanding that I'm pregnant, and I'm most likely going to stay pregnant. So I felt this safety and this reassurance that I can now celebrate with my community in a way that felt really,
like the public,
beautiful, that I was missing up until that point.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's an incredible thing to discuss, because I feel like it's something that a lot of people experience, a lot of women experience today. And I think it makes sense for the way men react in today's culture when they saw you and they get told by their friend that they're pregnant. I feel like it's kind of normal, but and it also has to do because we women have so stepped out of our own womanhood for so long that womanhood becomes a conflict. Becomes a conflict in our mind. Men don't have that problem today, right? It's like, for men, it's not pressured whether they should have a family or not. It's kind of left to them what they want to do. But when it comes to women, we should have a career. We should keep our physique. We should, be equals. We should get equal pay. Like, all those things that we talk about, that we've stepped away so far from our womanhood that when we see it right in front of us and it's so raw and real, or we're told, that it's such a large impact that we don't know how to process it. So I think that's probably why we see that completely different reaction. But I'm happy that you at least had really good reaction from your male friends. I think I saw one of them on video. It was the coolest thing. How excited he was. I can't remember his name.
It was Nico. But my gosh, it was so cute. It was so precious, and like I said, at this point, my perspective it really has shifted so much, and it's allowed for every kind of outcome, and understands how important those responses actually made me so much stronger, and understand certain things that I needed that at the time I didn't know I needed. But like I said, I feel like going into next pregnancy, I would handle it a lot differently. But at the end of the day too, like, if someone is going out of their way to share with you news that they are pregnant, and that they are choosing,
that they're happy about,
and that that they're in a relationship, it's actually not even about that. If someone is just going out of their way to tell you anything vulnerable, being able to try to meet them there and celebrate with them is so important. It has nothing to do with you. They're not bringing it up to make you uncomfortable or for it to be a reflection of what you're not doing. They're bringing it up because they're genuinely excited, and they want to celebrate something that's really scary and can be seen as really scary.
Or deeply celebratory. Yeah.
But they want to celebrate it, and they need to celebrate it so that they're less scared. So to be able to momentarily curb your immediate reaction
so that way it's just not entirely selfish, and it's just like, what do they need? I'm so happy for you. This is wild. How do you feel? Or even if you don't want to say like, you know, you don't want to say that you're happy for them. Like, even if that is hard, be like, oh my gosh, how are you feeling? Like, what got you to this point? Like, ask questions, be curious.
Ask questions.
Just, you don't have to, it doesn't have to just say, you don't have to just say congratulations and then suppress everything. It's like, oh my gosh, what got you to the point of feeling like you guys could do this? Like, what made you and Philip want, like, I would have loved
to even have kids. It's okay if you even ask those questions.
Yeah, be like, oh my gosh, and you could be vulnerable and be like, that feels like so far from me, but like, I have thought about kids, and I've, like, what got you to that place, do you think? Like, what did you guys have to do to allow yourself to maybe feel safe enough to even to think about it?
Yeah.
Asking questions is such a beautiful way.
Because you can get some wisdom back.
Yeah, and just the conversation and the relationship has a chance at surviving that momentary, you know, awkwardness. And I don't know,
you know,
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if other generations have dealt with that specific. I just didn't expect it. I was genuinely confused when it was awkward and it wasn't celebratory. I was like, oh,
no, it's normal. Yeah.
Weird.
Like, it's normal that you would feel that way, you know? It's kind of crazy because actually somebody on social, somebody that's supposed to be a friend that I've known for a while, like since 2019, I met them in person finally, and they were so excited about us and our dogs and everything. And then, you know, very well aware they were pregnant, never even said congratulations, never said a nice word, suddenly not saying anything. But anytime I would talk about the dogs on social media, celebrate the dogs, then had the audacity to send me a message that she's not interested in my kids. Whoa. And she doesn't care what I have to say about my kid and family. She'll keep talking about my dogs, and that's it.
Wow.
You know, going to that length. Like, there are people that go to lengths that you're just like, okay, I understand that you are glitching with this whole concept of having children, and maybe you've been deeply indoctrinated not to have kids, maybe you've had a traumatic upbringing. There's different reasons why people land to that conclusion. But don't tell someone something that is so profoundly damaging to your relationship, because it's like, you know that they were pregnant, you know that she gave birth, and you know she's breastfeeding, and you're telling that woman, your kid doesn't freaking matter to me. You know, it's like, you still want me to be friends with you after this? That's hard, right?
Impossible.
So
that's impossible.
It's like you were, after someone says something like that. And, you know, I'm not closing the door off for the rest of my life, but it was immediate heart stop from an instinctual standpoint that this is not a person that's safe in my life, you know, raising babies. But like you were saying, instead of sinking into whatever is going on in our minds, no matter the topic that we're talking about, to take that subject and attach it to your own experiences and reacting based on that is the worst thing you can do to yourself, because you don't actually know how your life can be on the other side if you just ask questions, like you said, you know. Ask questions, be curious. It doesn't matter how you're feeling about that thing at the moment. You know, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, where you're just like, oh, everything must be bad because this person is doing something different than what I feel I want to do right now, or if I think I want to do right now, right? Sink into it. And it's kind of crazy because a friend of mine who has a really large audience, and she's on Instagram, and she was, you know, did the vegan thing and left the vegan thing and shunned for it, a whole story behind that. But she was never talking about having children. She got married and she has 2 babies now. And from her audience, I can tell just like the comments and things people say, because they're watching her motherhood and how happy she is, and the home birth that she had, and all these things associated. There are a lot more babies in this world now because of her. Over the last few years, because the women allowed. At first, it was very just like a shock when she announced that she was pregnant, because she went from this very selfish life to my body and how I look and all these different things to like, I am just gonna be a woman and do the nurture thing. You know, a lot of her audience just glitched. Just the reactions that you got and that I've been getting. It's kind of like it was in a similar vein at first. congratulatory too, but also like really, you're not going to care about your six-pack anymore, or whatever, you know? And now it's like this, I can see on her community that these women are shifting and leaning into that. I am not saying that every woman needs to go and have a baby. It's your decision what you do. I think we're just sharing here that, you know, what is fulfilling us that we haven't thought that it would fulfill us in that way. And if your mind is reacting a certain way, ask yourself first why. You know, why are you feeling that way? Take a deep breath. Don't destroy that relationship, even though it's not something that you're comfortable with. You'll be surprised what comes after that. You know, I don't think that Kenzie is going to change in a tiny bit towards a negative and wanting to not be a friend after baby's born. I'm not like that. You know, I have a different outlook on life, and I have different priorities, but I love my friends. Like when I first became pregnant and you were not pregnant, I wasn't going to go like, oh, I'm pregnant, you will not understand me, bye. I'm going to go find some, you know, other... No, and I didn't know you're going to be pregnant that quickly after me, but I actually leaned into the friendship even more and told you more what's going on.
You invited me into it.
I wanted you in.
Which I appreciated so much. And again, I think that you were subtly seducing me into becoming pregnant. But it really did. It activated.
So it's that big belly kind of my fault?
100% your fault. No, it just, but it's what you're saying. Not every woman has a choice, and that choice is so important to be able to exercise. I knew that I always wanted babies. We talked about it. That was kind of instilled in me in a very natural way that never felt like it was taking away from my life or confusing my life. It was actually deepening and creating more clarity in my purpose. And so when I saw somebody close to me doing that and inviting me into the process, it felt like, if she could do this, I could do this, right? Like, there's more evidence. It's like you give your friends the permission to also take that leap of faith to why not figure out who I am. But there was something that I wanted to say that I think is that I want to share with anyone that's listening that may be on the edge of like, I don't know, like, I want to, but I don't, and like, is this the right time or whatever, or like, what am I losing out on, or what is being taken away from me, whatever it is that you're wrestling with. Number one, anxiety and stress and loneliness happens regardless if you become pregnant or not. It's not because of pregnancy.
It's a thing of life.
It's a thing of life, and you are not avoiding any kind of challenge by not becoming pregnant, or not taking that next step in your relationship, or not getting married, or whatever it is that you think that deep commitment to something is keeping you from. That's not the source of your discomfort. That is entirely a separate thing that is going to exist regardless of what you put yourself through. And I'm so happy 100%. that I just did it. I'm so happy that Philip and I looked at each other and we were able to be like, you know what, we're ready to be unready. Let's lean into the chaos. Both of us, even in the moments where I'm like, are we crazy? Should I, like, I still, and it's because I'm pregnant, and I am detecting a lot of threats, and I have to look at him and be like, are we doing the right thing right now, or are we crazy? And then he brings me back down to earth, and he's like, everything's fine, we're good. So even on the days where I'm like, are we doing the right thing? Was this the right time to have a baby? He's like, this is the only time we were ever going to do it, and it's exactly as it should be. And there is no reason to overthink it. Life would have been hard regardless, and now there's an even cooler outcome from the challenge and from some of the uncertainty that this is bringing, and big purpose, meaning more clarity in my life than I've ever had, that I never expected to feel, because we were just willing to take the plunge into uncertainty. And like I said, regardless if that's pregnancy, if it's deeply committing yourself to a certain path, to sobriety, to a relationship, whatever it is, deep commitment is the beginning of something so fulfilling.
It's like you have a North Star, like a true compass of where you can, because every single thing you do in life at that point when you make that commitment, no matter what that is, it's so easy because all you can do is go like, okay, does this align with my compass and my North Star of where I'm trying to go, or does it not? Yeah. And it's a clear yes or no, so you know how you want to proceed. If you don't have that North Star, then, you know, you don't have that compass, that direction of where to go. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
That is so beautiful. We'll get right back to the show, but first I want to share with you something that has been a game changer in my life: ancestral supplements. I've relied on these amazing, real and whole food supplements throughout my fertility journey, through pregnancy, recovering in postpartum, and now breastfeeding my baby. When all the many common supplements failed me, real, whole food, powerful supplements changed everything for the better. These supplements are pure and wholesome nutrition, real food that supports all of our seasons of life, just like it did for our ancestors. I've quit almost all other supplements with exception to a wholesome organic vitamin C in favor of ancestral powerful supplements. I believe in them with my whole heart and I can't recommend them enough. You'll find links to my personal favorites in the show notes of this episode, and you can see which ones will support your current season of life. And now, back to the show.
I love you so much. I love you. And truly like this, oh man, 8 months, like now here at 8 months, like you brought this up, but I would have survived the pregnancy, of course. Everything would have been fine. But without you and without having someone to talk to that has been through this before, it would have been really, really hard. It would have been much harder than it already is naturally, because again, for the first month, you're just trying to conceptualize, what the fuck does this mean? What is happening?
There's no evidence except that you're starting to feel different.
Yep, and your body
there's no physical evidence yet.
Nope, there's no physical evidence, but you are feeling these insane symptoms.
The changes.
And that obviously progresses and evolves throughout your pregnancy, and being able to have somebody that can relate and be there for you when you are ready to express and talk about everything that you might be experiencing, the complexity, the beauty, the overwhelm, the fear, the knowing, the intuitions. Having someone to express that to is so important. And I know that made our pregnancies, oh my gosh, he's moving so much right now.
He's responding.
Oh my gosh, he's like, I feel like his arms, it almost feels like he's like pumping his arms like outward. It's so crazy.
Oh, it's so cute.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I miss that.
It's the best.
Enjoy every
Again, it's like you said,
it's
the anchor that brings you back into the present, and he's like reminding me, like, you're not alone.
Yeah. I'm here.
I'm here still.
I am here.
Yeah. No, having at least
it's the cutest thing.
Having at least one person that you can really relate and express yourself to outside of your partner is really imperative. To just,
especially a woman.
Yes. I think specifically a woman and a mom. Like for me, it really helped having someone that was either pregnant or a mom experience, like the shared reality and the experience is so important. And now I have friends that are reaching out to me that are newly pregnant, and I'm like so giddy and excited for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be for them.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
I want to be for them what I didn't feel like I had in the, like, I want, like, now that I know what they need, like, I want to start, like, putting together little packages for them. And I never had that awareness. but I want to cultivate those relationships and reach out to the moms that are, and to the people that are choosing to embark on such a wild journey, and let them know, like, hey, it's awesome and it's beautiful and it's a lot.
Yeah, and you're loved, I'm here.
But like, you're not alone in it. Like, and even if you are alone, it's like there's a beauty in the loneliness that's actually like so fun to indulge in. And then when you don't want to be, you have people here around to celebrate that. So so, and that's been beautiful. And anyways, you've been the evidence of that, and you've been literally with me throughout the entirety of my pregnancy. And it's been
so
the
have
most
you know,
relieving thing.
On that same note, it's been the same for me. And it's so funny because you were just saying, like, you know, obviously a woman that you can, you know, share this experience with, and ideally a mama or pregnant. You weren't even that, but I think just knowing when I first told you that I was pregnant, knowing that you're going to be ecstatic for me and that you also someday want to have a family, that was even enough for me. Like, more than enough. You know, every time I would want to send this random dirty bathroom selfie to you of my growing belly and things like that, I felt comfortable. You know, it's like you were there excited for me and asking me all those questions, and I didn't know we were going to be pregnant in the same time. It just happened that way. But even before you were pregnant, it was equally beautiful. My pregnancy would have not been half as amazing if you were not in my life, from every standpoint. The messages I just sent you, one that you sent me during the last few days of pregnancy, and how beautiful, and the things that you were saying that I don't even know how you managed to say them when you have not gone through birth and labor yourself. It was beautiful, and it made my pregnancy incredible. It made my birth amazing. It's making my motherhood amazing. You know, so it's really important that we do the work to align ourselves with at least one good woman in our life, that we can start that conversation. And just a tip, and I haven't experienced it myself, but I heard it from another mama who didn't have any, you know, mama friends around her, and she was pregnant on her own. She signed up to birth with a midwife for a home birth, and she actually got connected to other pregnant mamas with a similar mindset through their midwife.
Amazing.
So that's another way to kind of build, you know, your sisterhood, where you can, you know, foster those relationships because you're both pregnant in the same time, see what resonates, see what feels good. But we women do really need each other. And when we have each other in a non-confrontational way, in a non-competitive way, and when we are doing it more within our nature, we don't need, because we shouldn't really have that side of the loneliness. Like, the loneliness that we want is where we get to self-reflect, and we get to be with our baby, and we get to nurture and prepare and ponder and relish and do all of that. That's a good loneliness. But the community loneliness and the womanhood loneliness should not be there. And it doesn't have to. We just have to do a little bit of the work, and anyone can pull that off. Even if, you know, you are not having, you know, a planned home birth or a midwife or whatever the case is, there's still ways to find community online and, you know, find someone local. There are Facebook groups, there's different things, you know. For me, I'm not gonna lie, I was completely satisfied with just Kenzie in my life. She checked all the boxes and did everything 100% right and a million times beyond. I really didn't care to... It almost felt invasive if someone else were to try to take that place.
Not allowed.
I'm not gonna lie. No. But, you know, if I didn't have Makenzie, I would definitely lean into that because it's so important. And it's not to say, I do want to kind of wrap up this whole conversation with this whole lonely pregnant mama. It's not because our husbands are not enough. That's not the point here. You know, our husbands fulfill so many important pieces in this, if not the most important aspect of not being lonely in pregnancy, right? We are both in extremely happy, deeply fulfilling relationships, Makenzie and I, so that's not the reason why we're talking about this, but we also know that womanhood and sisterhood, especially in pregnancy, is extremely, extremely important and very rewarding. So I just wanted to kind of tie this all in together for everybody to think about, because it's not something that you're looking to replace your men with. I wanted to ask you one question, because I kind of gave my input on that, but what would you feel that women can do in the beginning of pregnancy, besides, relishing a little longer and going deeper within when it comes to experiencing the news yourself? But what do you feel, how do you think we can, when we introduce these subjects to our lady friends who are not familiar, but they're still so close to our hearts and we want to keep them, what do you think we can do as pregnant mamas to bring them in and make them feel, I've been thinking about this a lot, make them feel like, hey, don't get scared away from me just because my uterus is going to expand by 5,000 times or something like that. That's like, don't run away from that. I know it's going to be a big change, but don't let the uterus change, scare you away from me. What can we do? What do you think? And if you don't have an idea, it's okay. I'm just kind of live pondering this with you.
I mean, I think it'll depend on the relationship itself and how honest you guys are with each other and how candid you can kind of be with each other, how much you can confront the uncomfortable tension that you might be feeling or whatever it is. I would just speak upon it, like you said, and be like, okay, this might be really weird for you right now because I might look or seem like a different person, but I really want you a part of this, and being candid in inviting them in and knowing and talking about the fact that it's going to be different, but we can find a way to make that really comfortable and beautiful and organic. Either just blatantly saying it like that, or going out of your way. And like for me, like I said, I went in a very different direction where for me, I didn't want to just confront it right then and there because I actually didn't know how I felt about it. I wasn't sure if the tension was necessary. I wasn't sure if the hesitation was actually teaching me. But you weren't sure they're going to react either. Yeah, and I wasn't sure if the hesitation was actually teaching me that maybe this wasn't a friendship that I needed moving forward. Like I wasn't sure what I was being educated on. So just taking a second and choosing to relish in the excitement of pregnancy for myself first, know what that means for me, and then find ways to, like, you know what, let's go out to lunch or let's go on a hike together, and not necessarily bombard them with this part of your life, but being curious about their life as well, and letting them know that, like, hey, you can still be your growing self with me, and then I can also be my growing self with you. That's probably the way that I will approach it my next round. Again, I don't want to like infringe upon them with like all the mom stuff. I don't want to, I want to be, I want to come with a lot of complexity, and I want to also be more than just like what my child did that day. Like I want to bring to them more than that. And that's my responsibility. And I also think, there's a way to navigate that where you can allow them to also be a growing and expansive person with you as you do the same thing.
I love that. Thank you so much, Makenzie. That's a beautiful answer. I'm going to take that into my second pregnancy, even though I don't think I'll need a lot of it because I'll have you all over again.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
It's going to be really helpful for my next round, for the ones that I do want to share the news with when the time comes. But
same.
You absolutely glow, Makenzie. My God, you have a different level of glow on your face compared to even the last time when I talked to you.
It's just sweat. I tell you every time.
Close, Mama.
I'm just sweating.
I don't know. I can't see it.
It's actually. I can't
even see it. It's your face. It's like. It glows. It's not the shine. It's like it's just like from within. It's this glow. You look so different than when you were a maiden. Babe is just bringing out this like feminine softness and
I'm different
beauty
for
in
sure.
you, and it's so beautiful. Thank you so much for making the time today, this late into your pregnancy. I appreciate you so much.
Of course. Thank you for...
I love you, sister.
This is like a journal for me. It's like a journal entry, and I can't wait to look back on these conversations with each other and continue to learn and laugh at what we thought we knew and then also be surprised by what we did. I think this is just such a beautiful... I don't know, these conversations are just like a beautiful timestamp into such a precious moment of our life that can go by so fast. And so I'm so grateful that you're just opening up the space where I can actually take a couple hours to think about what has happened these past 8 months, because I don't have a lot of time to do that, as you know. So thank you for having me. Yeah. I appreciate you so much. It's always a blast.
Honor. I love you. Thank you,
I love
Makenzie.
you very much.
For everyone who wants to find you, where can they find you? On social or whatever you like, besides your amazing business fable.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. If you're in Los Angeles, you can find me pretty easily on Riverside Drive. We just opened an artist clubhouse in Toluca Lake in Burbank. You can find us at Fable House. It's spelled Feybl. House, House. That's across all platforms. You can find us there. You can also find me on Instagram at Makenzie_Dustman. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you guys. It's been really cool to actually have so many sweet connections through social media at this time. A lot of mama-to-bees reaching out and finding, like you were saying, like finding a community through social media is what it is for. And I think take advantage of that. Reach out to us. We're around, we're active, and we're looking forward to connecting with people, helping, advising, and also learning.
Yeah, you could sneak in and watch her dance with her big belly.
Yeah, I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Makenzie. I look forward to reconnecting maybe on one more podcast before Babe comes, and hopefully lots after.
Yay. I look forward to it.
Do you want to take this show on the go with you? Whether you're relaxing at home or you're on the go, you can take the Modern Matriarch podcast wherever you are. Find us on all major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else. Just search for Modern Matriarch and join us anytime and anywhere. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Modern Matriarch podcast. Since you made it all the way to the end, I'd love to invite you to visit themodernmatriarch.co. This is where we're creating helpful and inspiring resources to help you along this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe to this podcast and leave us a like and a comment below this episode. Your support helps us reach more incredible women, brings more amazing guests to the show, and also helps us deliver fresh and inspiring content to you. We'll see you next time on the Modern Matriarch podcast.